Welcome to the Get Real with King Arthur show. Thank you for listening. Well, would you believe that we took a little detour last week and talked about friends, but we're back at this quantum business, and it's going to take a while to get out of it, so I hope you're patient with me, and because we got much to say. First, I might thank Wayne for responding to our programs with a clip on essentially Buddhism. And Buddhism raises a lot of questions on the reality of the physical world. Brilliant questions, and which I share their wisdom. But they, like quantum physicists, some of them, don't talk about metaphysics. And as I understand, the Buddha talks about how to live with suffering and essentially to survive suffering by lowering your demands. The Buddha himself, the Dalai Lama himself said that unlike Christianity, Buddhism has no God of love. In other words, they too lack metaphysics. And what I'm trying to say is I think there's another path to reality. Some kind of reality, not the indeterminacy of the physical world and whatever, which is, as Buddhism points out, very indeterminate. So we talked about the path, a new path to truth. And we talked about the gospel of high possibilities. And then we talked about if you want to know the truth, you've got to live the truth in your life. I want to talk today about a person who found his way through to some kind of faith in reality. Now, it's found in literature. A little background. The set piece in the 19th century in England, the most famous poem was In Memoriam. And in the 19th century, it's nothing to sneeze at either, Queen Victoria. In the 19th century, it is T.S. Eliot's Wasteland and Prufrock. I don't know what the 21st century would be. But Tennyson, who became poet laureate in the 1850s, succeeding Robert Southey, and who became the favorite poet of Queen Victoria, especially after Prince Albert died in 1863. Tennyson struggled with all the questions of faith that it was brought forth in the Victorian era in the 19th century. And he talks about the struggle he had for faith in Memoriam. The poem was caused by the death of his 21-year-old friend at Cambridge, who was engaged to Tennyson's sister. Tennyson thought he would become the new Prime Minister of England. And at age 21, while with his father, the historian, traveling in Austria, he had a brain clot and died. Devastated the Tennyson family. Well, that's the setting. And a good share or some of In Memoriam, that big, long collection of poems, was set in the backyard of the manse or of the Tennison's father, in other words, the parsonage, in a town called Somersby in the north of England, Lincolnshire. I walked through the town, didn't know I'd walk through it. That's how big it is. But anyway, there's a beautiful backyard. And this backyard is a battlefield of the 19th century. I got there, I was chased out, but I got in that gorgeous lawn, which kind of goes off into infinity in the hills of Lincolnshire. Anyway, I want to recite stanza 96 and then talk about it. You tell me, you whose light brown eyes are tender over drowning flies, you sweethearted you, but with no touch of scorn, you tell me doubt is devil born. Tennyson says, I know not. One I knew, Hallam, his friend, in many a subtle question burst, who touched a jarring lyre at first, but ever strove to make it true. He would not make his judgment unsound. Perplexed in faith, but pure in deeds, at last he beat his music art out. There lives more faith, believe me, in honest doubt than in happier creeds. And power was with him in the night that dwells not in the light alone, as on the dust and cloud in Sinai's mountain old, while the Israelites below worshiped their calf of gold, although the trumpet blew so loud. Now there are steps here that Hallam took to finding truth. And the first step, he was well-versed. In fact, he and Tennyson belonged to this think tank club at Cambridge, the Apostles. And many a subtle question verse, there's no ignoramus. At first, he uses the metaphor of a piano, you know. Sometimes piano teacher says, just pound it out. We're going to work it out here in a while. It jarred at first. Antimony, remember we talked about antimony, where two sets of truths do not seem to match. Perplexed in faith, but pure in deeds. We talked about morality as part of the search. At last he beat his music out. And then it says, and power was with him in the night. I'm going to talk about next time when I get to it on power was with him in the night. So, yes, I think that Buddhism, with all its wisdom, like many scientists, materialistic scientists, does not have metaphysics. We don't talk about the reality that is outside this evanescent, changing world. So the steps are what we said. Searching, honest doubt. A lot of doubt isn't honest. He really honest doubt. He searched. And he said, there's faith in honest doubt, sincerely. I really want to know, not as a shelter for my living my own life the way I want to live it. Well, we got more to talk, especially about the power in the future. And I know that Buddhism has many wonderful insights, but not in metaphysics. I think there's a path to God, to truth. I think there's a path to reality.